M116 and M117 timing chain guides and how they fail. I was looking through my back catalog of videos and I realized that I never really did a very good in-depth discussion on these timing chain guides. I have some videos on why it's important to change your chain and check the guides, but I wanted to do a more in-depth video on these guides because I feel like it would help a lot of people who have purchased these cars save themselves from a major headache later down the road. So let's say you bought a 420 or 560 SEL and you started and you hear a rattle when it's cold. Maybe you don't even hear a rattle all the time. Maybe you hear it sometimes, or maybe you hear it when it's hot, or maybe you hear it after an oil change. That is the timing chain tensioner repressurizing, and while you're hearing that rattling, the timing chain is rattling against possibly the inside of the valve cover or against these chain guides. And that's why they do inevitably break. Now, we're looking at new chain guides. These are the guides that go in your cylinder heads. There are three of them. There's one opposite of the tensioner rail on the right side. If you have a M116 engine, like a 420 or 380, it's going to be a shorty. And if you have a 5 liter or 5.6 liter M117 engine, it's going to be a longer rail. And the way that these guides work is that as your timing chain goes around in a circle, it rests against these guides. It puts pressure on these guides. Now, the right side and the left side are both susceptible to breakage, but the right side is the more susceptible on cars that have bad tensioners, and the left seems to be the more susceptible in cars that have worn out timing chains. So a good example, we had a 560 SL in here that had a bad chain tensioner, but it still had a decent chain, and it broke the right inner rail. And because you have controlled pressure on this side, you won't notice it as much. It's still bad, but you won't hear it. So the right one gives you a lot less warning. Now the left side, if your tensioner is doing its job, but your chain is so worn out, it's all floppy, the left side is going to take the beating. And the left inner rail, which goes upward like the chain is going up over it and is getting pulled back down by the crankshaft, this guy is going to break right in between the two pins that hold it into the head and snap in half. Now, some of you, when you pull your valve covers, you're going to see that your guides are not this color. This is the color of a new guide. They'll actually be more like this color, this reddish brown, and this is sort of built into the guides as a chemical indicator so that the person who owns the car knows when they're about to go kaboom. So if your guides are this color, change them. It's not going to hurt anything unless you screw it up and break off the pin inside the head. And if you don't think you're capable of doing that, then don't touch it. You should probably find someone who is. Now, on the left cylinder head, driver's side head, opposite of the tensioner rail, all the way across the engine is going to be another short rail. So on a 380, it's going to be really short, but on a 500 or 560, it's going to be about this long. This rail almost never breaks because there's no slapping, there's no real load on it. I'm not saying you shouldn't replace it, but I'm just saying it rarely ever breaks. The danger is when the left rail breaks into pieces and the end breaks off. Sometimes this end will break off and then this end will fall into the chain and this end will become a free-floating piece. It'll either fall down into the cylinder head or it'll get sucked into the chain path, jam the cam gear in between the chain and the valve cover and cause the chain to jump, breaking the valve cover and bending your valves. Sure, you love the sound of that. It manifests as one of the most horrible noises I've ever heard, and I don't think you want to hear that noise if you can avoid it. So, one of the things that I was going to tell you is that if you have one of these cars and you haven't checked these guides, you are playing with fire. Everybody who has one of these things needs to know how the guides are. Now, another question I get is, did all of those engines have these plastic guides? And the truth is that they didn't. Early 1970 to 73 model year M116 and M117 engines came with metal guides. They used sort of an aluminum block, and then they had a rubberized skin vulcanized or molded to them. And this rubberized skin still wears out and gets hard, but it's not going to break like the plastic guides. Unfortunately, when a lot of those cars had timing chains done, they put the updated plastic guides in, which I don't care for. It would be nice if, and if anybody knows whether or not there's some sort of part number hack for the original guides, I'd love to know. It's just I haven't been able to find any, and we've been hopelessly dependent on using the nylon guides, which are good for anywhere from 50 to 100,000 miles. So it's not too bad, but it's also not. It's also, I also think they should have stuck with the aluminum guides, but what do I know? You know, I'm sure the engineers had some kind of reason for it. So if you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. Tap the bell for notifications. And if you haven't checked, get a new set of valve cover gaskets, get some cam oil or tube kits, and prepare for 50-50. Either the valve cover goes back on or it stays off till you replace your timing chain and your guides. You should be prepared for the worst. I'll see you later. Enjoy driving and working on your classic Mercedes.